Test.
Well, it's terrific to see everybody this morning. Thanks so much for braving the traffic and the parking. We know that's always a little bit of an adventure, but welcome back to a new school year. So happy to have it all together. So Kim, could you pull the roll and get ourselves moving?
Dr. Reed, Ms. Bayham,
Here.
Ms. Palazola,
Here.
Dr. Bro,
Here.
Dr. Bureau, Ms. Haven,
Here.
Mr. Dillon,
Here.
Ms. London,
Here.
Whitney Green, Dr. O'Rourke, Mr. Manella, Dr. Weaver Meyer,
Yeah.
Dr. Smith, and Ms. Soden.
Yeah.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. All right, so I think the first thing for us to do is to approve the minutes from April the 8th. So if I could get a motion on that would be terrific.
Motion.
Thank you. Need a second?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? So all in favor, please say aye. Any against? Very good. It's always a good thing when we get to approve the minutes. So first thing that I wanted to do is just to sort of give a quick update about where we are with the programs so far. So we, as things stand from the action of this group, we have 6 new programs that are either have been created or are in the process of being created. So that includes, as you see, so new programs at 2 HBCUs, Southern and Southern New Orleans, and also Southern Baton Rouge. And then also our first programs in the north of the state at UL Monroe. So that's, I think, a huge victory. That was exactly what we were looking for as we did so much of this work. Certainly wanted to create a little space if people wanted to talk about that, but at least, being able to see that progress, I think, is just really, really exciting. So any thoughts or comments about that progress so far?
I think it's fantastic. We've had a lot of success working with different universities and getting them up and going and with programs and getting CTP status.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very, very exciting.
I think we heard that last week that Monroe has their CTP status now approved, which is
Yes.
super. So don't send them more packets of cornflakes anymore, right? So many congratulations to that. And I know we have a representative from McNeese who's with us today, and I think you were saying you were going to put yours in today or tomorrow or next week or.
I've been working through the CTP application and it's almost finished. Like I'll probably be ready to submit it at the end of this week. So it's exciting for us.
So I think the process that the process we created, to create the support with these planning grants that then kind of lead into, this is I think a really super way for us to support new programs as they're moving forward. So yeah, so involved with that. All right, so moving on to our, maybe you wanted to share. We do have the report which we have to put together about the status of these programs. What's the timeline for your?
Okay, I'm gonna talk about that later.
Oh, you were.
I can talk about it now.
No, talk about it later. It's all your thunder. It suddenly occurs to me. Next on our agenda is Mr. Doyle. If you wanted to share a few words, that'd be good.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you all for having me. My name is Liam Doyle. I'm the Assistant Director for the Governor's Office of Disability Affairs. I was asked to come in today and just give you an update on sort of what we've been doing since our last meeting. First and foremost, October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So we were able to get a proclamation signed by Governor Landry to make that official for the state of Louisiana. And we, welcome that coordination because obviously employment and higher education go hand in hand. Most recently, we had our go to conference, and Letty Goings who's right there, from McNeese did a really great presentation on her field, and it was the first one that we had, and it was so really good remarks on that. I'm happy to share that with any of y'all as long as Letty's okay with that. But she was fantastic, so thank you for doing that. The biggest thing that we have right now, the reason why Jamar is not here is because he's on his way to New Orleans. Lighthouse Louisiana was able to secure a very substantial grant through the Disability Initiative Innovation Fund, U.S. Department of Education. So he is presenting in New Orleans today to get that signed. And so for our part, we were able to do a letter of support for that funding, and we're happy to do that with y'all. And currently, that funding doesn't have a higher ed component, but they do want to have that in the future in terms of what their goals are. So they really want to be sort of involved in that higher process when it gets to the point where they can. Additionally, we do have a newsletter that goes out every month to over 7,000 recipients, and we had both the ULM ACES program and the UL Life program featured in September. So anything we can do to support what y'all are doing, if it's informational, if it's letters of support, if it's, anything that we can do to further your progress, we're happy to do that.
No, that's true.
So yeah.
So what are there things that we can do to help help this new grant funding project include higher education?
So I will, I'm gonna defer to Jamar, and I'll reach out to Jamar because he's kind of more involved in that than I am. But definitely, I think when it gets to that point, like I said, they do want to have a higher education element. They're just not there yet.
Yeah.
Coordinating with Lighthouse Louisiana and our office would be a good idea down the road.
But you can help it, like,
Yeah.
can you connect me with?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We'll trade cards later.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so, our big thing, we have it open to our policy in terms of anything we can do to help the disability community across the state. So, reach out to us and keep those lines of communication open. We're happy to do what we can.
Thank you. Any questions for Liam? Great. Thanks so much. Thanks for the update. So the next item on the agenda is a budget update. In your packet, you'll see a one-pager there. So huge thank you to everyone for assistance in putting this together. As you'll see, a lot of the material that you all sent, we were able to include in this one-pager, which we then were able to provide to Senate Finance back in, I believe it was now back in April or May, which seems like a lifetime ago now, but it really was only a few months ago. And so we, I think as many of you have seen on I think we shared the link of the video footage. So Dr. Bro was there to be able to testify, and Mitch was also there to be able to testify that day. You look sharp then, you look sharp today.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So Mitch, do you remember some of the things that you said there that day to persuade the committee to give you the $1 million? You were incredibly persuasive that day. I think
I just trying to remember. I just don't know.
well,
Personality and charm, I guess.
I was.
I think so.
He had a winning smile and he said the magic words because they gave us $1 million. I think by the time you finished, the committee chair was begging to walk out of there with only giving you $1 million. It was really
Good job.
really wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mitch did a tremendous job that day, and so as we say, we were able to get that an additional $1 million put into our fund. So huge congratulations. For all of that. So maybe moving on from there. There's a picture of Mitch. Here we go. So moving on from there, I think we can have an opportunity for a couple of updates from Yapar and from Solar. So Dr. Bro, maybe you can give us an update on Yapar.
So for LaPi, which is housed under Southeastern, prior to that, it was a grant that was funded by the DD Council. And it was awarded to Southeastern. So LaPi, since its beginning, which is a group that helps to advocate and just have information presented to make the public and families and potential students aware of the different programs throughout the state. So it's been very successful. There's been some videos that have been made and released that help to spread the word about the programs. When the first round of monies were awarded to this fund, $100,000 was allocated, and that is housed at Southeastern. Dr. Beckers was there at the time. And I will say that now that Dr. Beckers is retired, it's been a little bit of a challenge. But monies have gone into a student worker who helps to oversee some of the social media. Monies have gone towards people helping other programs to get started. So that has been successful. I've communicated with Southeastern to try to get a little bit more information because I'm not privy to the budget, even though I'm kind of leading the charge. So there's a little bit of salary for the student worker, a little bit of salary for consultants to go in and help, a little bit of travel money, supplies, and of course, related benefits. At the present time, there is almost $74,000 remaining in that fund.
Oh, good.
So there are a little bit of salaries remaining in there, but there's a lot of room for discussion. We have director Zoom meetings every now and again, and we talk about things that we think LaPi could do. It, just like I said, it is a little bit of a struggle from not being at Southeastern to coordinate some things. And that was something that I had in my notes to inquire, because I know we had voted that Southeastern would be the host of LaPi. And I believe that was for a certain amount of time. So just inquiring when that's gonna come up again, and see where we can go from there.
So where is the, so you say Dr. Beckers is now retired, so who,
Laverne Traylor, is there.
Mhm.
I don't think she's in the role of director. She's more in the role of everyday, in the program with the students. She had said that there was a position open for a director. But to my knowledge, that has not been filled. So Laverne has been working with me to help and figure out what the budget looks like and going forward.
so maybe you and I can work together and just make a call down to Southeastern and just try to understand, as we say, it was a request for them to be the fiscal agent, which I think probably made all the sense in the world when Dr. Beckers was there. Maybe now that maybe that's not the right place for the fiscal agent to be, and so we can revisit whether it makes more sense for it to be Nichols or a different institution now that Dr. Beckers is retired, so.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
That'd be very helpful.
happy to help with that, yeah. Any questions for Dr. Bro about the five? Great that there's still funds left in the balance to be used, so that's encouraging too.
And I know when we had met last, we had kind of reserved some monies before the recent allocation was awarded, possibly for LaPi. And on a recent director's call, which Lakeisha was on that call, Brittany was on that call. We all kind of spoke that, you know, we think that we could run LaPi with less monies, do a lot more things from our universities. So, you know, that's just something up for discussion when we talk about budget, since we do have 73,000, you know, maybe re-looking at a lower amount, to be, you know, set with LaPi to keep it running.
Great. Any other questions about LaPi? Clearly, LaPi is helping a ton with helping people put together these applications and all of that. So it's a very useful resource for us to have as a state. Dr. Reed, you going?
So I'm here in substitution for Dr. Reed.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
if you'd
cool.
like, you can
Thanks,
have a
Nick.
seat right up here. I have the clicker and her slides for you.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Emily Jackson will say, okay.
So, yeah. An update from Southern, you remember this is one of the new programs that we supported to get off the ground, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
so this is our planning year, and just to get started, I'm here in absence of Dr. Misty Reed. But Dr. Misty Reed is the principal investigator on this grant, and she comes with an extensive amount of background, knowledge, and experiences. She is a certified teacher, not only in math and science, also in special education, adaptive physical education. She's also an educational diagnostician, so she comes with an extensive amount of knowledge to be able to carry out this grant. So just some organization of the presentation, and I'll just keep going. So just to get going, the name of our program is JAGU, and that stands for the Joining Abilities and Growth University Program at Southern University, which will provide students with inclusive, supportive, and empowering educational experiences for students with intellectual disabilities. And we're gonna go about doing that by providing students with not only academic, social, and career development through personalized learning, internships on campus, development through personalized learning, campus engagement. Also, JAGU will equip students with adaptive skills and confidence that they need for meaningful occupational experiences, skills for living while promoting diversity and inclusion while within the HBCU community. So just to lay out the program overview, the students will receive comprehensive college experiences, where students will be offered intellectual developmental disabilities, a fully inclusive, supportive academic program. So our students who are currently in our program, who are seeking to become dual certified, either elementary education or middle school education, will be working with our students. They will receive work-based learning, which will be provided with real-world experiences. So being that we have dining services, we have an athletic department. So being that Dr. Reed not only is certified in those areas that I mentioned earlier, she does have a passion for health and PE. So she really likes to work with the athletic department. So we're looking at having the students work with our football team, basketball team as a manager or whatnot, with those work-based learning experiences, in addition to providing them with a skill curriculum, and then having a dedicated team within a school of education at Southern University. So students will have the opportunity to participate in either credit-bearing courses or where they can actually do non-credit bearing. Where they can audit courses, and again, like I mentioned earlier, internships and work-based learning experiences. So our plan is to recruit by working with neighboring districts to partner with those special education departments to see what students may qualify for our program, so then we can reach out to those families and discuss what we have to offer at Southern University. Also, we're gonna have an advisory panel that's going to consist of not only Dr. Reed, but myself, in addition to Dr. Aaron Scott, who's our curriculum and instruction interim department chair, an educational diagnostician, just like I mentioned earlier. Dr. Reed will be that person, so ultimately we won't have to necessarily seek a lot of outside resources. A lot of our resources will come internally. In addition, we do have a grant funded through Board of Regents that allow for us to basically revamp our School of Education program at a comprehensive level. So we were able to hire 2 student services coordinators where we provide students with wraparound services. So where their social and emotional learning comes in, not only with providing them with academic advisement. In addition, with those potential work-based experience supervisors, so those different areas I mentioned earlier, we will be working with those departments to provide those experiences that those students would have, like I mentioned about dining services, athletic department, et cetera. So right now, we're looking to partner with Louisiana Workforce Commission. We do have a partnership on campus with IBM to be able to offer students micro credentials. So I just wanted to point that out. And then also what we really want to just emphasize, again, like I mentioned, some of those locations, but we also have the Office of Student Affairs. So we have what you call a Divine Nine, a variety of sororities and fraternities that the students will be able to work with. Our Office of Disability Services, obviously our area School of Education, peer mentor program where the students will be working with our current students who are preparing to become certified teachers. And again, with having a variety of diversity, equity, and inclusivity initiatives along with community events, because we're always having events going on the campus. Like this Saturday, we're hosting a Jaguar Preview Day where students from surrounding high schools can come and check out the university and participate in a football game as well. So that's something that the students can work with us on. Some other things within the program where we're talking about curriculum, readiness and self-care workshops, computer applications, like I mentioned before with IBM, communicative, art, mathematical arts, integrative exploration of phenomena. So that's just another way of just talking about the sciences, that they will be immersed in addition with physical wellness and education, along with creative and fine arts. The way that I mentioned earlier, working with the surrounding districts, we currently have MOUs with those districts that this will be a part of update that we will have with those MOUs to speak on about them assisting us with recruiting students from their districts to work with us. Scheduling financial aid, campus life strategy development, which will come through our student life organization on campus. And lastly, again, JG Stride, but one part that Dr. Reed really wanted me to emphasize is that Stride piece, successfully transforming resilience into determined excellence. So one thing she definitely wanted to make sure that I emphasize here with this slide, we already have a family culture. So what you see here with her taking pictures with the students, this is the type of environment that students will be coming in and working with us to just embrace what we already have cultivated with this family type of environment and culture. And thanks.
Any questions for Dr. Jackson?
When are y'all planning on starting?
So right now, this is when we wrote the grant, this is our planning year, but the goal is to use this time for recruitment, to identify those surrounding districts that we can work with within those SPED departments. But the goal is to bring in our first cohort of students next fall, between a range of 4 to 8. students and then possibly, the following year doubling that. With going into the fall 26 year.
You have a capacity.
Not necessarily. Ultimately, I know what we want to be able to do is obviously understand the needs of the students and to actually see what they need, which will ultimately kind of direct how many we could actually have a capacity for. But from what we proposed was ultimately having a student paired with one of our current teacher preparation students to where they will kind of be their buddy as they go around the campus and engage in various activities from taking coursework or just going out. Like we just recently had career services, host our career fair. So they'll be able to engage in a lot of those things, but under, working with a buddy. So that's pretty much where our capacity is, just once we identify the students that we'll be working with and just seeing their needs. And then from there, we can determine, what our capacity would be, but we're open to, families that want to come to Southern.
Y'all are working on the CTP, I believe.
Yes, we are currently working on that. I just sent Dr. Rita messages to see where she was on that, since we were talking about that earlier at the start of the meeting. So right now she is working with Nichols State with that. Oh, that, yeah, that's.
I've spoken with her a few times.
Yes, so, and also with our financial aid, just to make sure we get our package together, but we should.
It's a
be able
different
to-
process.
Yes, and that's one thing she said, we're new to this, so we're still trying to learn. So just hearing that Monroe was recently approved, I wrote that down to possibly reach out to them to just see what that process looked like, but obviously, Dr. Reed has already been working with you.
Other questions for Dr. Jackson? Any advice for Dr. Jackson?
I would just like to say that I'm really excited to have an HBCU. I have a lot of friends that are Southern alum, and I know it's really important. My son graduated from my alma mater, and I know how people who graduate from Southern, how much pride they have in graduating. So the fact that this is an opportunity for their kids who have intellectual disabilities to be able to go there is gonna really have such a tremendous impact, I think, on those families and, you know, on the, as you said, Southern has such a family culture.
Yeah.
Like, I think that this is just gonna to bring in other members of the family that
Yeah.
didn't have an opportunity before. So
Yeah.
I think that's really great.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. I'm excited. So are we expected to come and just provide another update? 'Cause I saw the last meeting was in April. I was expected to come back in April to give an update then.
I mean, if you have an update to share, we can talk about it when we get back. We more than likely will have a
Okay.
meeting
But
in the
not a
spring.
formal.
Okay,
Yeah.
but just as far as the meetings, they're twice a year.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
We are fortunate that the statute does not tell us how many times we have to meet. And so-
Gotcha.
So we have a little flexibility, which is flexibility.
Okay, but moving forward, we'll be in the loop on when any meetings are taking place and any, and one thing I also wanted to mention from Mr. Doyle's presentation in regards to getting signed up for the newsletter. Oh, thank you.
So to that point, I was gonna tell you this later, our executive director is a product of Southern Law School. So
Yes,
Jamar went through that program, and
yes.
so anything we can do to help you out when you get to the point where you're promoting and things like that, please let us know.
Oh, wonderful.
But yeah, so for the newsletter, we put that out once a month and reach out to me to get you on the list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Let us know how the CTP process is going, because of course. that-
Interesting. Thank y'all so much.
No, thank you. Any other updates that anyone has that they'd like to share? Well, maybe do it in seconds. So let me kind of talk a little bit about,
Like 790.
yeah, I'm gonna wind it into this. So I kind of wanted to fill everyone in on where we are from a generally speaking, funding perspective. So I wanted to begin with Act 790. So Act 790 of the last session provided institutions with the possibility to have a differential tuition for programs that are deemed to be high cost. And so the Act actually charges the Board of Regents in creating a list of high-cost program categories and then approving that. And then that then allows institutions in concert with their management boards to actually then be able to create those differential tuitions for high-cost undergraduate programs. So up until then, I think you'll remember to create a change tuition for undergraduate programs required a 2/3 vote of both the House and the Senate. So it didn't happen very often. It's of course a very high threshold. Act 790 provides that some flexibility then for campuses to be able to create different tuitions for high cost programs. There's a ceiling to how quickly that tuition can increase. So it's actually the threshold is that it can increase by more than 10% across a 3-year period. But other than that, it allows some flexibility for campuses. When we so actually our board approved that list of high cost programs. That was last week, or so that was last Wednesday. All the days are running together, but so CTP programs were part of that list. So I was made sure to include CTP programs in that list. So it does allow then campuses some flexibility to be able to create that increase in tuition for programs such as the ones we're talking about. Clearly, it's not ultimate flexibility. Like you can set anything you like, but gradually over time, it would be the case that you may well be able to increase that to a higher tuition. But as I say, it's not the Board of Regents' action to raise that tuition. That's something that management boards have to do, and you'll have to do in concert with your own institutions. But yeah, any questions about Act 790?
Where do fees lie in that?
So they actually lie in there too. Yes. So
Fees.
it provides the flexibility to set differential both tuition and fees for so-called high cost programs.
So is that I've heard there was a 10% over a 2-year period, so
I believe it's a 3-year.
that's the rule,
That's
10% over 3 years.
That's right. You can't increase by more than 10% over 3 years. But you can increase. So you can increase by 10% in year 1. You just can't increase it more in years
2 more years.
Yeah, right? Or 3, 3, and 4, or however you like to play it out. The statute also says, and this is not, of course, not only for our programs, all high cost programs, that if an institution does raise tuition or create a differential tuition on a high cost program, then they have to do it in such a way that they let students know in advance. So you can't just, not that anybody would want to do that, but you can't just snap your fingers and do it tomorrow. Or and then similarly, institutions are obliged to create a scholarship or waiver structure for the statute says for for situations of financial need. So for low income students, you don't want that increased tuition to be a barrier. So the statute envisages that and asks that if you do create an increased tuition, that you also then create that. Some doesn't specify how, but some kind of increased waiver or scholarship structure that will then alleviate that. Any other questions about Act 790?
Thank you for including CTVs.
Thank you.
I mean, it was very much the way that the high cost programs were arrived at. We asked, you can imagine, we asked systems, what are programs where there are small class sizes or perhaps faculty members who, you can imagine there are disciplines where faculty members earn substantially more than in others, and, you know, situations where there are substantial, very expensive pieces of equipment, other things like that, but, it's clear CTP programs absolutely sit inside that family, so we're happy to include them. Yeah. All right. So on a money front, so we are in a different place than we were in April when we met last. You remember when we met in April, we had some remaining funds from the funds we had. We also had about $610,000 in reserves that we did not have budgetary authority to be able to dispense at that point. And then Mitch worked his magic, and then we went to in the new budget that we now have, we still have that $610,000 in reserves, but now we have $1 million in the fund, and we also have budgetary authority to dispense that, or to spend that $1 million. So this is where we are. At our last meeting, of course, the group voted to provide funds to all the CTP programs from the funds that we had in the last fiscal year. And then we had also envisaged in this fiscal year, if we were able to get budgetary authority for those reserve funds, to give $60,000 to Monroe once they were able to get their CTP status, and then $50,000 to each of the existing programs. So Baton Rouge, each of the existing programs that have a CTP status. So Baton Rouge, BIPC, LSUA, LSU Baton Rouge, Nichols, Southeastern, and ULL. So that means that we have earmarked, if you will, $410,000 of funds that we have already earmarked to spend. Clearly, we cannot get budgetary authority to spend the $610,000 while we still have monies to spend in this fiscal year, but we do have clearly the $1 million that we have right now that we can go ahead and so it's our intention to dispense those $410,000 in the next week or so that we can get those out. That, of course, leaves us some space and an additional $590,000 in this fiscal year, as well as the $610,000 in reserve. So a little bit more than $1.1 million. I guess $1.2 million. So let me talk a little bit about the budget horizon. So there is actually, the governor's office is having a press conference literally actually right now to talk about plans moving forward. So these are my understandings of those plans. So he, I believe, will be asking for a special session later on in the fall, sometime in November, to have specific conversations with the legislature about making some changes to the way that revenue and finance works across the state. So I'm certainly not going to steal the governor's thunder about what's in the press conference, but the bottom line is, I think everyone knows that without some kind of significant fiscal action, the state faces a fairly significant financial cliff. So I guess it was last week today. So we were in this room and having our budget hearings for all of our institutions. When we asked our institutions to prepare those budgets, we asked them to envisage a $250 million cut in their budgets, which would be right around 25% of their budgets. You can imagine such a cut would be devastating, and that's exactly what we heard last week, that such a cut would be devastating. Based on all of that, at least our feeling is that we should be thinking about these $1 million that we have in supporting us going forward. We should not be looking to try to spend more of it in this fiscal year, because at least what we know about the budget right now suggests there will not be substantial amounts of funds moving forward for us to depend on. Instead, we should be thinking about this $1 million we have as supporting us over the next several years, perhaps 2, perhaps 3, we can think about that as we move forward. But it seems as though it's not unreasonable for us to think, okay, let's disperse the $410,000 we envisaged that and supports the programs that we have out there. We could also launch a request for proposals for institutions that want to create that. You remember we had the option that Monroe did and Southern did to a planning grant, then followed by a supported grant if once they get their CTPs. Those are not super expensive, and I think we would imagine there would only be maybe 1 or 2 programs out there still who would be looking to do that. But we could certainly put out that request for proposals, come back after Christmas time, maybe January or something like that, and then the budget would be much clearer. Whatever the legislature had chosen to do in the November, we would now know what that would be looking like. We would have a clearer picture of what the budget would be going into that fiscal session in April, and maybe able to make some more informed decisions going forward. But at least right now, it seems more prudent not to. Does that make sense to not spend significant amounts of the money that we have to have? Any thoughts or questions about that? Probably have more questions than I have answers, but I'm happy to. Answers that I can.
So just to be clear, from my understanding, when we came and allocated the funds the last time, we had, I believe, we stated $100,000 per CTP, but some of that money was not able to be dispensed.
That's right. It was in two pieces.
It was in
50,
two.
50.
So the first 50 has already gone out to the institutions.
That's right.
And that is for the 2024, 2025 fiscal year.
So the first 50 was for fiscal year 23-24, and then the other, which is, we are now in 24-25. So the other 50 was 24-25, which is the amount that Dr. Dentley just spoke about.
So that was dispersed already. We have that.
Not 24-25, 23-24.
That we have. So that was our existing programs. That was our second $50,000 award.
From the very beginning of
From
the
the very
council,
beginning.
yes.
So are you saying that we can plan to disperse for 24-25?
So I think the way that we disperse the funds, they aren't necessarily tied to fiscal years. We're providing those funds to institutions.
That was how y'all voted on
Well,
it. That's why it was tied to it.
I suppose that's right.
Yeah.
So as you say, the monies that we were able to disperse in the last fiscal year have gone out of the door. Those are all on the campuses already. We are now in a position to be able to provide that $50,000 that you envisaged, let's say, at the last meeting, but we didn't actually have fiscal authority to disperse. Now we do, and so now we can, and so we can provide those $50,000 to Baton Rouge, to Dipsey, to LSUA, LSU Baton Rouge, Nichols, Southeastern, and University of Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette was in the existing programs. And then we also would then be able to provide you remember Monroe had the planning grant, and then once they got their CTP, the other half of it was the $60,000 to make the 80. So now we're in a position to fund that. Clearly, when other programs come online with their CTPs, then we can act appropriately to honor the decisions that we made before. But as things currently stand, we're in a position to do that, is to provide those funds, and then we'll come back in January and see where the budget lies. But as I say, at least my suggestion is that we do open that RFP up for planning grants and or the planning and implementation grants. Clearly campuses and maybe in different places as to which one they want to apply for. But we're not approving any of those today, we would come back again in January, February timeframe and see what those applications are, and then clearly the council would act appropriately if there are applications and there are applications that you choose to make.
And we do know that McNeese is preparing,
That's right.
so, you know, I believe, you know, Letty is in the back and they're working on their CTP application, almost ready to submit, so I think that would be wonderful that we would be able to open that up again and
Yep.
let them apply. We know they're gonna apply, and let whomever else that may be planning to apply that we don't know of.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And clearly, I mean, what we've heard today and what we've seen now in the recent past, those planning grants and the support they provide, they really are a really good tactic for us to be able to spread in exactly the way that Senator Boudreaux had envisaged when he did the great work to create this body. All right, well, terrific. Well, then we will do what we need to do to be able to provide those funds and get those to institutions. And then you and I will meet up to talk with Southeastern about how it is to smooth out this fiscal action.
Yeah. They approve it.
I don't think we have to, well, let's take a motion. Can I get a motion?
Well, to reopen the application process.
Oh, for that.
Make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you very much.
Would we have a tentative timeline just so that people could be watching out for that?
Yeah, we were thinking to be due on December 1st. Yeah, and of course we have the structure already in place, so we'll update all the materials, but they will look very, very similar.
And will that only go to the institutions that don't have a program? Because I know the last time it went out to everybody and I never,
They were confused.
yeah, they were like, what's going on?
I have to see how we're gonna send it out, because usually we send it out to like our chief academic officer listserv. But we can state in the email that this is only for new applications, not for existing programs. We can put something in the
Yeah,
email.
we'll make it better.
Perfect.
So, any other business for today?
Dr. Mooney?
Yeah, we just, LSU received a national grant. It was actually looking, sometimes I don't know the acronyms. It's Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Community Living. It's a 3-year grant surrounding emergency preparedness development for post-secondary institutions. So in year 1, a group of us will get together to try to determine effective practices, then work within LSU's Integrated Community Studies program and Capital Area Autism Network in Baton Rouge disability organizations to be able to train and develop and continue to coordinate. In year 2, need to work with you all as well. It wasn't part of the proposal, but it's something to do. In year 2, to expand to all state post-secondary institutions. And then in year 3, it kind of moves to the southeastern United States. So we will be reaching out to involve all of you as much as you're willing to be involved in trying to improve emergency preparedness for the programs specifically, and then the communities and into the high schools as well, so that there can be kind of coordination and the communication across, students who will be eventually moving into those kinds of programs. Hopefully it'll be something that we can continue to build upon over time as well. So it was a letter of support provided by the Commissioner of Higher Education, and obviously that would have helped. But so yeah.
Counselor, your son, any questions for Dr. Moody? Congratulations. Tim, I know, I almost stole your thunder earlier, but yeah,
Well, you didn't know I was gonna talk about it.
absolutely.
So it's time to start gathering information for the annual report that is required by the legislature. So you gotta give me the info. But I'll send y'all probably an email this week, with a link to a jot form. It's gonna be the same information as last year. This is only for programs, not for only county. So I will probably. I'll probably put like. Probably third week of October when the date is due. So we can start to get that report together because we plan on presenting it at the December board meeting for approval. And we've got to be able to get it all together. So just keep an eye out on your email. And it'll be for any program that received funds. So even if your program is in development, that's okay. Just put on the jot form, your program's in development, and there's still some narrative in there that you'll be able to answer if we don't have current students enrolled.
As always, once the jump form comes, I think it's relatively self-explanatory.
It
If you have
is.
questions or concerns or worries or anything, just let us know, we're keeping this, where I am. We will be happy to get back to you. I think for some of you, you remember doing this last year and maybe the year before as well, so it's kind of a similar kinds of things. But you see now how invaluable it is. We're really able to communicate to the legislature, the work that we're doing, the way that these funds are really being so valuably used. And I think, it is something that it's the testimony is easy. So, yeah. Any other business?
I could just mention one thing. So I know a lot of your students are supported by Louisiana Rehab Services. So you spoke a lot about the budget. So I just want everybody to be aware, just so you're not caught off guard. If we endure any cut next year, which we're working, spoke to the DD Council just the other day, working really hard to avoid this. But if we are cut, it could be in a situation where we have to close order of selection, which means we would have a waiting list. And so if that happens, that could affect our ability to serve new students. So I just want everybody aware that that could be potential if there's a cut to LRS.
Clearly, the budgetary cuts that higher education is facing it's not just higher education that's
Right.
involved, it's the
Everybody.
every state agency basically.
I just had a couple of things. So if we could just maybe get some information. I know like my seat on this board was appointed by the governor. So I don't know if that was a termed seat. No. Okay.
No seat on this council is termed.
So I guess it would just be if someone would vacate a seat to reappoint.
And we reach out to whoever the authority is. If it's an appointment, some of them aren't appointments, some of them are director of type of thing. But we reach out and we get the new appointments.
And just a little bit of good news, Nichols Bridge to Independence did go through CTP approval again. Because we were a 2-year program and we had feedback that more individuals and families would have liked to have seen a 4-year program. And we also have a lot of opportunities for off-campus internships that were just very, very difficult, almost impossible to fit into our day in a 2-year program. So we did reapply for CTP and we were awarded 4-year program status.
Well, much progress in such a short amount of time. It's just really,
Yeah.
yeah. And were there any public comments today? Yeah, sure. Would you like to share a little bit of an update about where we are with the McNeese program? I know you said you were gonna be.
Yeah, sure. So this has been kind of a process. I've been working on for like the past 5.5 years. And so we're finally able to put pen to paper and really get some force behind it. So I'm really thankful for that. We are just about ready to submit for our CTP. We will probably be doing that this week or next week. And so really, we had wanted to try to get a test group kind of off the ground for the spring, but I don't know that we're gonna get our approvals back and everything by that time. So I think we would just take this time to really build the program and what that's gonna look like and how many participants we can have. Do we need to cap them? Because we're in a unique position in Lake Charles where we serve kind of a 5-parish area. So I think that we're gonna have a lot of buy-in and we're gonna have a lot of interest, and I think we're gonna have to really screen applicants and do all those things. So that's exciting, a little intimidating, but exciting. Yeah, I guess once we get the CTP application in, we'll get our application for these monies ready to fill out and turn in, and then we'll see what happens. But I'm excited.
Yeah, see, I'll say very good. Well, if there's no further business, then I get a proposal to adjourn.
I would like to mention,
Yes.
I feel like I was just here giving my presentation, but we're already in year 3 of the program.
Wow.
We're up to 12 students, and our year 3 students just got their first on-campus jobs. So we're on the way.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, like you're right. It seems like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
We're virtually just launching.
We're on the way.
You can make another video?
Yes, we made a second one. I can share that if you'd like.
Yeah.
That'll be our thing every year. So, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Almost don't want to close it off. Every time I want to say it, somebody has another good piece of good news to share, so. All right, we'll get it. That's good, Sharon. Thank you.
That was so.